Good afternoon, everyone. How are you all? Good
Good afternoon,
afternoon.
sir.
Hello, sir. Good
Hello,
afternoon,
sir.
sir.
Hello. Good afternoon.
How are
Good
you,
afternoon,
sir?
sir.
I'm okay. I'm okay. Thank you, sir. Nice to meet you all again after a week. So this is our session 5. Can you remember what we have started discussing in our last session?
Sir, debit credit.
Debit credit rule. Basically, this debit credit rule is needed for what purpose? This debit credit rules is needed for what purpose?
Sir, isn't this our session 4?
Yeah, this is from session 4. Why do we need the debit session for?
Sir, we needed to log it into the journal or the accounting journal.
Excellent. So basically, we are emphasizing on the journalization. By the journalization, we start the recording process, and to record the transactions after identifying it from the transactions, we have to we know what is the first steps of accounting activities. First step of accounting activities:
Recognizing transaction.
recognizing transactions or identifying the transactions, and the second step starts with the recording one, and the recording one we have to start with the journalization, and to journalize the transactions we have to apply a rule that is known as debit credit rule. So in our previous sessions you are asked to solve a problem. Basically it's a homeworks or practice purposes, and now we are going to check those one with you, that how far we are comfortable with identifying the transactions and identify or applying the debit credit rule to the transactions or activities. Have you done it? Have you
Yes,
done
sir.
the problems? Thank you. Good luck. So let's see how far we have done, whether we have any problems regarding that, and if there is any problems we'll try to resolve those. So it was related to problem number E28 from your book. We have asked you to go through the transaction analysis and apply the debit credit rule. And for your purposes, I have summarized the debit credit rules and specified here, so that we can easily use it. So just to remember, recap purposes, what was the debit credit rules? We have identified that when there is an asset expense and drawings, if it increase we should debit it, when decrease we should credit it. On the other hand, for liability, capital and revenue, when increase it should be credited, just opposite of the previous one, and when decrease we should debit it. That's the rules we have to follow. So these are the activities have been given here from your problems. Now we'll try to identify whether it's a transactions or not. We'll analyze those and we'll apply the debit credit rule, and we'll see how or what account should be recorded to the journals. So first one was paid monthly rent, $1,200.
So rent and cash.
Rent and cash accounts.
So rent is expense
Rent
and
is an
cash is
expense,
assets.
cash is an asset. And how the changes?
So increase
Excellent. Rent increases, cash decreases. Now apply the rules. Rent is an expense, expense increase. If expense increase, we should
Debited.
debit it. Asset decreased. Cash is an asset decreased,
Credit.
so it should be credit. Excellent. So if I want to do the journal for this transaction, how should or what account should be recorded in what chronology?
First debit, then
First
credit.
debit, then credit. Excellent. So rent or rent expense, debit, and cash, credit. That's how we have to journalize. Nice. Second one. Okay. So they perform service on account. So we should write down accounts receivable and service revenue. Accounts receivable is an asset. Service revenue is an revenue or income. Yeah. So asset, yes, sir. Okay, because they mention on account, if they specify on account, does it mean cash? Accounts receivable. That means they provided service but yet not received the cash. That's why no cash account will be here. If you looked at the next one, that will help you. Okay. So accounts receivable and service revenue, assets and revenue. So accounts receivable or asset,
So both are increased.
both are increasing. Yeah, both are increasing. So if asset increase, it should be debit, and if revenue increase, it should be
Credit.
credit. Exactly. So exactly, we'll mention the amounts in the next problem when we are going to solve it. Here we'll just trying to be familiar with the generalization process. So accounts receivable debit and service revenue credit. So in this case, if they just mention perform service of 160.
Service revenue.
Okay. Now question is, did they mention that they have received cash? No. So the rule is that if they don't mention that they have received cash or they have paid cash, we always should consider on account. Have you got it? If in any transaction, if they don't specify that this transaction was incurred and they have received cash or they have paid cash, if they don't specify this thing, we always consider that transaction was incurred on account. But means no cash dealing was made. Yeah, or credit. On credit. That means no cash dealings was made. Okay, have you got it? Okay, so in that case, yes, exactly. Accounts. In that case, accounts receivable and service revenue as well. That means the same thing. If they mentions perform service of 160, it is the same thing as perform services of 160 of an on account. Reason is that they did not specify that they have received cash. If there is any cash dealings, they could record it like that: received cash of 160 by performing service, or perform service for a cash of 160. Something like that will be mentioned. If cash is not been mentioned, we always will consider it is on account. Got the point? Okay. If you yeah, if you look at the next one, it will clear to you. Perform service for cash $75. They directly specify they have received cash for performing this service. So what are the accounts will be affected here, or what are the activities?
Cash and service revenue.
Cash and service revenue. Yeah, exactly. Service revenue and cash. Cash is an asset. Service revenue is a revenue. So cash
Increases.
increased and service both increases. Cash will be
Debit.
debit, service revenue
Credit.
credit. Excellent. So that's how we are going to record it in the journal. Cash debit service revenue. Next one, purchased equipment for $600. The company
Purchase
paid,
equipment.
yeah, the company paid 90 and the balance was on account. That means they did not pay the full amount after purchasing the equipment. So equipment one, yeah,
So equipment, cash, and accounts payable.
equipment cash and
Accounts
accounts
payable.
payable because they did not pay the full amount and remaining amount need to be paid later on.
Sir,
Equipment
this is
asset.
on credit, sir. It's accounts payable or accounts receivable?
Okay, if you buy anything, do you have to pay or you are going to receive cash?
Sir, I have to pay.
You have to pay. If you have to pay, it's always accounts payable.
No, sir, if they write on credit,
Same thing. On credit, on account, the same thing. That
yes,
means
sir.
no cash here, no cash activities have been incurred. Now, depending on what types of transactions incurred, if you are supposed to receive, it will be accounts receivable. If you are supposed to pay, it will be accounts payable. Okay.
Yes,
Cool. So cash is also an asset. Accounts payable is a
liability.
liability. Changes.
Asset,
Equipment increase, asset, cash decrease, liability
Increase.
increase. Excellent. Equipment increase,
debit,
debit, cash asset reduce,
credit,
credit, liability increase,
credit.
credit, credit as well. Just apply these rules. So if I want to write it here, equipment, debit, if I want to also wants to specify the amount that we debit will be by 600, cash credit will be by 90, accounts payable will be credited by how much will be the accounts payable amount?
90.
No,
500.
500 and
500.
510. The remaining amount still on pay. So out of 600, you have purchased an equipment with the 600, you paid 90. So the remaining 510 you are going to pay later on. That's why accounts payable is 510. That's how we have to record it. Is there anything in one? No. Then 12. Receive cash from customers billed on March 3. Let's see what happened on March 3. On March 3, you perform service of 160 on account. That's why it was on account. You did not pay, you did not receive cash. That's why you have recorded accounts receivable. Now you are receiving that amount. So what are the activities will be there?
Cash and accounts receivable.
Excellent. Accounts receivable. Both are assets. Change. Hmm.
Accounts receivable decrease.
Accounts receivable decrease. And when asset increase, debit. When asset decrease, should be credit. So journal will be, sorry, cash debit. Can you remember which one should write first, debit or credit?
Debit.
Debit.
Debit should be recorded first. That's the rule. Next one, paid salaries and wages to employees 525. Paid salaries and wages to employees 525.
Salaries and wage,
Hmm.
debit,
Excellent.
accounts receivable, accounts payable.
Okay, salaries. and wages is one. Another account,
Cash.
is it accounts payable?
Cash,
It's
sir.
cash.
It's cash because they mentioned paid. Yeah, yeah, no problem, no problem. They mentioned paid, so it should be cash. But if they don't it's paid, what does the paid means? Cash or bank are similar here. You can write down bank, doesn't matter. Cash and bank will be considered as similar account, or cash at bank, whatever you like. So salaries and wages, what types of account?
Sir, expenses.
Expenses. Cash is an assets. Changes,
Yeah.
increase. Cash,
Decrease.
decrease. Rule,
Debit, sir.
expense, debit,
And credit.
credit. Excellent. So we should write down salaries and wages. You can write down salaries and wages, expense, debit, and cash, credit. What if they just mention incurred salaries and wages of 525? What do you think?
So it would be like they incurred the cash from their capital.
No, 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 no. There is no effect of the capital here. That means it indicates that you have got the services from your employees and you are supposed to pay this amount to your employees. That's why it's called incur. Accounts
Accounts payable.
payable. Then accounts payable. Can you remember just few minutes back I have mentioned if any transaction incurred and if they don't specify that there is a cash dealings, we always have to consider its on account. So one account will be accounts payable, another one salaries and wages. Okay, are you okay with that?
Yes, sir.
Cool. 22. Paid utilities of 72.
So expense and cash.
Yeah, we have to specify what expense, utilities,
So sorry, usually expense.
utilities, and cash. So utilities is an expense, cash is an assets. So increase, expense increase, asset
Decrease.
decreased. And if expense increase, it should be debit. If asset decrease, it should be credit. So we should write it down. Utilities, expense, debit, cash, credit. That's how we should record into the journal. Same queries, incurred utilities expense. If instead of paid utilities of 72, if they just mention incurred utilities expense.
Sir, accounts payable.
Accounts payable and
Utility.
utilities. That's how we should record it. Borrowed 1500 from Grafton State Bank by signing a note. Can you remember the note?
Sir, note payable.
Note payable and
Sir, should I write cash or bank?
same thing as I have mentioned. Cash
Sir,
and
because
bank are considered the similar account because nowadays when the any transactions incurred in an organization, they do not deal with cash. They always deal with the bank. That's why whenever they are mentioning the cash account, it indicates the bank account. Or you can see that whenever you will deal with the different financial statement, you can see they mention cash at bank, something like cash at bank. It indicates the same account. Cash, bank are the considered as a similar account. Okay.
Sir, how does this become cash? If they borrowed money from a bank, right?
Mhm. So,
How is this? How does this activity fall under cash?
so what are they receiving from the bank?
1500
1500 what?
money.
Money. That's the cash.
Oh, okay.
That's why we
So
mentioned.
will the cash increase here?
Exactly. Cash is increasing here because it's an asset. It will increase. And on the other hand, notes payable is a
Liability.
liability. Liability. It will your
Also
liability also
increase.
increase because there was no liability before you signed this agreement.
Yes.
Now your liability is increased. So when liability increase, our rule says that it should be credit. And when you receive cash asset increase, rule said that it should be debit. And we have to record the debit first, cash debit, and notes payable credit. That's how we should record it into the journal. What if they just mention borrowed 1500 from Gafton State Bank? Hmm?
So bank will be account payable,
Hmm.
cash should be increased, cash will increase.
One account will be cash. Another account will
It's an
mention the
asset account, sir.
yeah, cash is an asset. Another account we have borrowed it from the bank, so we'll just mention loan, not the accounts payable. If you buy something on credit, then we generally use the accounts payable account. And here you actually took loan from the bank. That's why we'll mention the loan account,
Loan,
loan account,
loan,
loan account, or bank loan account. Okay, it's a liability. It's the same thing as the liability. Here, against the loan, you issued a notes, and in that case, you haven't issued a loan in notes. You just made an agreement with the bank that you are going to take this loan, or you have taken this loan from the bank. That's the difference between these two. So if they just mention borrowed that amount from any bank, we'll mention loan. If they mention borrowed this amount by signing a note, we'll mention the notes payable account. Okay. Next, paid 220 to repair service for pummeling repairs.
Cash.
Cash and repair, exactly, repair. So cash is an asset, repair expense, exactly. So cash
Asset decrease.
decrease, expense increase. Things done, rules,
Credit and debit.
credit and debit. So in the journal we'll mention repair expense debit, cash credit. 28. Paid balance amount owed for equipment purchase on March 8. Let's see what happened on March 8. On March 8, you purchased an equipment of $600. At that time, you paid a cash of 90, but remaining amount was not paid. That's why you created accounts payable with 510. Now you are going to pay this amount. Paid balance amount owed for the equipment purchase on March 8. Because no amount is specified, that means you have paid the full amount you are supposed to pay. So what are the accounts will be affected?
Sir, accounts payable and cash.
Accounts payable. Do you all agree? You already recorded the equipment, isn't it? On March 8, you already recorded that equipment with $600. So if you record equipment again, the same thing will be recorded twice, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And when you purchase that equipment, that liability was created. Now you are paying this liability. Now in the second transaction, there is no relationship with that equipment purchase, the relationship with that liability only. And that's why whenever you are paying your liability accounts will be affected, your liability will be reduced. And how are you paying the liability? Through cash. So
Asset.
cash will be affected. So liability decreased, asset decreased as well. And changes done. Uh,
Like
if liability decrease, look at this.
debit.
If liability decrease, debit. And asset decrease, credit. So in the journal, accounts payable, debit, cash, credit. The last one. Paid
Sir,
18. Yeah, sure, sir.
the interest debit and cash.
Sorry.
Sir, insurance premium and cash.
Oh, last one. Yeah, I'm coming to that. Okay. Yeah, insurance premium and cash. Insurance. They paid insurance for the next 6 months. So insurance premium and cash. Cash is an assets. Insurance premium, it's also an asset. Why it's an asset? Yeah, it will provide service because you paid this insurance for the next 6 months. What if you paid insurance for this month? If you paid,
It's expense.
it will be considered as an expense. How are you going to record it then? What will be the activity or title? Yeah, it should be debit, but what should be the title in that case if it is been paid for this month? Say for example, if I write it here again, paid, sorry, paid 1800 of insurance, এতটুকুই, or for this month. How are you going to insurance expense and cash? Okay. So basically, this insurance expense and insurance premium, whenever we write it something like that, it looks same. So it create confusion. Can you remember when we differentiate or define asset and expenses? We gave an example regarding salaries. If we pay salary for in advance for the next couple of months, how should we write it down? Uh-huh. We are not going to receive that amount from our employee. We already paid it, and employee will provide services later on. I'm not sure whether I have written it here or not, but can anyone remember? Yeah, paid in advance or advance salary or prepaid salary. Can you remember like that?
Yes, sir.
Hmm? If we here was the discussion probably. If we rent paid, it was regarding rent basically. If you paid in advance, that will be a part of the asset, and if you paid for the current month, that will be considered as an expenses. So that's how we should record it in the name of prepaid. So if you paid in advance for the next couple of months, we mention it as a prepaid. So it is better to mention prepaid insurance premium or prepaid insurance. That's enough. Then it will indicate that it's an asset. Or if you just mention insurance premium or insurance expense, it will indicate expense. Have you got the difference?
Sir, I have a question.
Please, sir.
Sir, in 6 months, it includes this month from
Includes this,
month.
yeah, includes this month on, yeah, exactly, it's a nice question. It also includes this month only. What we have to do at the end of this month, we have to do an adjustment. This adjustment will be done in chapter 3. We'll see later on how to do this adjustment. So but for the initial record we have to record all the amounts together, and because from today we have paid for the next 6 months, that's why it has been recorded as a prepaid amount or advance amount. We can also write down advance insurance. Is it okay?
Sir, can you explain 24 and 28 again, please?
20.
4 and 28.
Okay, I'll come to that, but let me finish 30 first. For the 30, is it okay, the difference between these two?
Yes, sir.
Cool. So that's how we should proceed. So prepaid insurance, as you have mentioned, it's an asset. How it is changing?
Will increase,
Increased. Cash
will decrease.
decrease. So asset increase must be debit, asset decreased must be credit. Similarly, if you consider the expense for this month, then if expense increase, should debit. If cash decrease, should be credit. Prepaid insurance debit, cash credit. That's how we have to do the journals. Okay, you had a second query regarding 24 and 28. In 24, they mentioned borrowed 1500 from a bank by signing a notes. We know that what does the notes means? That means you have given a written assurance to the bank that you are going to pay this amount after a certain period of time. That's why notes payable is one account, and you have taken loan from the bank. That means you have received cash from the bank as well. So two accounts are here: notes payable and cash. Notes payable is a liability, cash is an asset. Liability increased, cash asset increase, and we know the rules. If asset increase debit, liability increase credit, and in the journal cash account and notes payable account. Is it okay?
Sir, don't we have to make an accounts payable
No.
because we're borrowing money?
Yeah, that's why you have mentioned the notes payable in place of accounts payable. The same thing, you are liable to pay that amount. The alternative, we mentioned that if they don't mention that you have issued a notes, in that case, because we are taking loan, in place of notes payable, we will mention the loan account. Cash and loan will be there. And number 28, paid balance amount owed for equipment purchase on March 8. So what happened on March 8? We purchased an equipment with an amount of $600. At that time we paid 90 only, and the remaining 510 will be paid later on. That how we have recorded that accounts payable amount. This amount will be paid later on. Now you are paying this amount. So now if you pay, these accounts will be affected. That means accounts payable. So your accounts payable account liability decreased, and you paid by cash. So cash asset decrease. So accounts payable and a cash. Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Cool.
Thank you, sir.
It's all right, sir. So that's how we, when any transactions incurred, we'll make the initial assessment, and after making this initial assessment, we'll apply the debit credit rule for the journalization purpose. So we have also shown how can we do the journal as a rough with the transaction analysis part. And now we are going to solve another problem. In this problem, we will directly do the journal. We'll directly do the journals without doing this analysis part in the scripts, or we definitely have to do this analysis part, but we'll try to do it in mind. If you need, we can also do it rough along with the journalization. And whenever we want to do a journal, we definitely have to follow a format. This is the format. Say for example, we are going to solve a problem of E217 from your book. E217, here is it. E217, we are going to solve this problem, and some transactions is been given here for Bayer Security Company. It's a security company, so security service is their main activities. The transactions regarding October are been given here. You are asked to do the journals for these transactions. So Whenever we are doing the journals, we have to follow a format. This is the format of the journal. So what we have to show, we have to, sorry, this is the format of the journal: date, particulars, reference, debit, credit, debit column, credit column. These are the things we should mention whenever we are doing any journals. So, and at the top, we should mention the name of the company, and it is basically known as general journal. So, Bear Security Company is the name of the company, and we are doing the general journal for this company for the month of October, because the transactions given to us, it is related to the October. Now, let's try to do the journal, uh, or show the effect of this transaction into the journal directly by doing the analysis part in our mind or in the working part, whatever you like. So the first one, invested 66,000 cash in the business. Invested 66,000 cash in the business.
Cash,
So
debit,
cash
capital,
and
credit.
Cash and
owners
cash and
Capital.
cash and capital.
capitals.
Cash and, do you want to write it down here or want to do the journal directly? What do you want? Feel
In the
free.
box, I guess.
We'll do the journal here, but do you need the workings of the transaction analysis part? We definitely have to do it, maybe in mind or as a working. Cash,
I think we can practice in mind. So
it will, yeah, that will be beneficial for you, but someone may be new in accounting and may not be comfortable yet to go through that process. That's why I'm asking, but definitely you have to be familiar with do it in mind.
Sir, we can do both, sir.
We can do it both. Okay, let's try to do it in mind, then I'll show it into the workings part, or maybe some of them will be showing here as a workings, and remaining part will be do in mind. Okay, so cash and capital, two accounts. Cash is an
Sir, David, sir.
asset.
asset.
Yes, it's
We need to find out the types first. So yeah, cash is an asset, capital is an
Owner security.
owner security. Just write it down in short. A means asset, owner security. So cash
increase.
increase, we should think from an organization's viewpoint. If cash increase, it should be
Debit.
debit. And if owner security increase, in that case, owner security increase or decrease?
So increase.
Increase as well. It should be
Credit.
credit. So the journal will be cash debit, capital credit.
Capital, credit.
Yeah, cash debit, capital credit. And this debited credit means that this debit and credit means that we have to write down the amounts in the debit and credit column. So cash debit 66,000 in the debit column, and capital credit 66,000 into the credit column. And after recording this cash and capital into the debit and credit column, we need to give an explanation here. Can you remember the explanations we have done into the transaction analysis or tabular analysis part? This
Invested.
explanation, can you remember?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we are doing the same thing with this explanation part will be recorded here. This is another reason why I have tried to familiarize you with the explanation. So this, whatever explanations we have mentioned here, the same things will be recorded here. So what can be the explanation for this transaction or for this record?
Invested money
Invested,
by the company.
yeah, invested by owner.
Sir, I can write anything.
You can write anything if it is meaningful. Say, as you have mentioned, invested money to start the business, it's okay. I have mentioned invested by owner, it's okay. So if it is meaningful, That means if it is related to that transaction, uh, that's fine. It can be anything.
So if the instruction says that don't give explanation,
Forget
it's
about the
valid.
instructions, because we have to understand how should we generalize. Then when we are very much familiar with the generalization, then if they mention they don't need to give any explanation, you can skip it. But at first we should know. At first we should know how to do the journal. Second one, hired a part-time security consultant and the salary will be paid 2000 per month. First day of work will be on October 15. You are in October 2.
I think it's not a transaction.
It's not a transaction because you are still in October 2. You are in October 2. You just hired that person. This person yet not started providing any service and you are not liable to pay it. That's why, yeah.
Sir, if they didn't mention,
Sorry.
uh, sir, if they only write hired part-time security consultant, salary will be 2000 per month.
Yes, if it is a higher, it doesn't mean that she has joined or he has joined.
Sir, that time it also
It's not will be. It's also not a transaction. And when these activities will be given, we definitely have to mention not a transaction. Because if you don't mention that it's not a transaction, it is not clear. Why have you? Why didn't you recorded these activities? Did you missed it, or you have made a mistake? So that's why you have to specify that it is not a transaction. That's why we have not recorded it into the journal. Number 3 or in 4, paid 1 month rent for building $2000. Paid 1 month rent. Yeah,
Cash and expense.
cash. Sorry, cash and
sir, rent.
rent. We should mention the what types of expense it is. Cash is an assets. I just mentioned A for asset. Rent for expense. Changes.
Cash decreases,
Cash decrease.
credit.
So it should be credit. Expense
Expense increases,
increases.
debit.
Debit. So our journal will be rent debit by 2000. Cash will be credited by 2000. Explanation.
So paid rent.
Paid rent expense. So
So if I write only paid rent,
that's
it
all.
will be okay.
Yeah, it's okay. But explanation should be there. In the journals, explanation must be there. Can you think yourself for the next one? Purchased equipment for 18,000, paying 4,000 cash and the balance on account.
Sir, equipment, cash, and accounts payable.
Equipment, cash and accounts payable. Can I write down directly? One is equipment, cash, accounts payable. Equipment, asset increase should be debit 18,000. Cash you paid, asset decreased. How much cash paid? 4,000. And the remaining amount was not paid yet. How much is it?
14,000.
14,000. So our journal will be equipment debit 18,000, cash credit 4,000, accounts payable credit 14,000. So how can we write down the explanation?
purchased equipment,
Hmm.
cash and balance on the
Hmm.
account.
On cash and on account. Okay. Sir, feel free to share your views if you have any confusion. We can spend more time to clear your views. Next one, paid 500 for advertising. Paid 500 for advertising. Advertising and
Cash,
cash. Advertising is a
Expense.
expense. Cash is an
Asset.
asset. Expense
Increases.
increase should be debit.
Debit.
Cash
Decreases.
decrease should be
Credit.
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 No, fine. Advertising expense and cash. Advertising should be debit by 500. Cash should be credit by 500. That's all. Paid advertising expense. Okay. After okay, transaction of October 2. Okay, I'll come to that. Let me finish. Oh, so October 8. Is it okay? Is that okay for you regarding the advertisement? Okay. One of your friends,
Yes,
have, yeah, one of our friends have requested for October transaction 2. So they mentioned that hired a security consultant. Salary will be paid 2,000 per month, and this security consultant will start working on October 15. And we are in October 2 now. When we hire an employee, it doesn't mean that he or she will join. That means he or she is still not been started providing any services to us. So it will not be a transaction. We are not liable to pay any amount when we hire then any person. That's why whenever it has been mentioned hired someone for providing service or as an employee, we will always consider that it is not a transaction. When it will be a transaction, when that person will start working for us. Say they mention on October 15, he or she will join and will start working for us. So on from October 15, when they will start working from us, it will be considered as a transaction when they will start providing any services. But when we will hire or employ anyone to work for us, it doesn't mean that he or there is no assurance that he or she will join. We just hired them. That's why it will not be considered as a transaction.
so if they write October 2,
Even if they write October 2, do you think that they have started providing service?
no,
And no, not yet, or they may start
yeah,
providing services, and whenever we are providing salaries, we will consider at the time if they mention that this guy has provided services and he or she is supposed to pay this amount, then we'll consider it as a transaction, otherwise not.
got it. Thank you.
Is it clear, Afra? Maybe. Okay, we have finished number 8. Then 10, receipt bill for equipment repair cost of 390. You had an equipment, you have made an repairment for that equipment, and who the guy who repaired it for you, they have paid a bill to you. How should we record it? What are the activities are related with that?
sir.
Sometimes,
Repair expense, debit and
yeah,
cash.
exactly, repair expense and sorry, cash. Repair is an expense, asset is an cash, asset, expense, change,
Increase.
increase should be debit, cash decrease. Okay, sorry. Yeah, that's the issue. So you mentioned that for the for any sorry, receipt bill for a repair service, so one account will be repaired expenses, and you mentioned cash. But now question is that have you paid any cash?
No, sir.
No. So can you remember what we mentioned earlier? If they don't mention that there is any cash transaction or cash dealings, what should we do?
It's an accounts payable.
Accounts payable. Should be accounts payable. So if there is an accounts payable, it's a liability. And in that case, what will be the scenario?
It's a liability increase.
Increase. Should be credit. So that should be the journal for us. Repair expense debit, accounts payable credit for 390. Explanation.
Sir, is it because they haven't specified how to pay it that we're
They
putting
haven't
it under accounts
specified
payable?
whether it's paid or not.
So received bill, will this always fall under accounts payable?
Under payable. So this receipt bill means that after providing the services, they have given an invoice to you that we have provided services to you and you have to pay this amount to us.
So that's why it goes under accounts payable.
That's why it goes under the accounts payable. If they mention received bill and paid for repair purposes, then you should consider cash. You just got the bill from them that you now you are liable to pay to them. Okay. So what should be our explanation here?
It's a receipt repair bill.
Yeah, received bill for repair. Bill for repair expenses. Twelve. Provided security service for a event for 3200 on account. If you can remember, their main objective is to provide services, security services. So if I want to do this journal directly,
It's an accounts receivable.
accounts receivable
Service revenue.
and service, exactly. Any confusion or anyone do not agree? Accounts receivable is an asset. You provided services on account, that's why accounts receivable. And for service provider, service revenue. Accounts receivable is an asset, increased should be debit 3200, and service revenue is a revenue, increase should be credit 3200. What should be the explanation? What should be the explanation?
So provide services
Mm-hmm.
on account.
That's all. Services on account. That's all. Basically, from the transactions, we can identify what could be the explanation. Provided services on account. That's all. 16. Purchase supplies for 10 on account. Purchase supplies for 410 on account.
purchase and accounts payable.
We should mention supplies.
Supplies.
Supplies, exactly. Supplies and accounts payable. These two accounts. Supplies is an assets. It's increased, so it should be debit. Liability, it's also increased. That's why it should be credit. The supplies and accounts payable, exactly. So amount was 410 for supplies, 410 for accounts payable. How can I write down the explanation? Hmm? Purchase supplies on account. 21. Paid balance due from October 7 purchase of equipment. What happened on October 7? On October 7, we purchased an equipment with 18,000. We paid cash of 4,000 and there was a balance due of 14,000. That means this amount will be paid later on. Now they mention that you are now going to pay that due amount. Help me.
Accounts payable and cash.
Accounts payable and cash. Because that due amount will be paid, it's a liability, it's an asset. So liability
So decrease.
decreased. Should be debit. Asset decreased as well. Should be credit.
Credit.
So accounts payable debit, cash credit. How much?
14,000.
14,000. Excellent. 14,000. What should I write into the explanation part?
Paid the due balance.
Yeah, paid the due balance. Explanation is very easy. You can grab it from the transaction. 24. Received and paid utility bill for 148. Now you have received the bill and paid. What should be the journal? I want to do it directly. Received, you received the utility bill and paid it. So what should be the accounts?
Utility expenses and cash.
Exactly. Utilities, expenses, and cash. So utilities expense is an expense increase or decrease?
Should increase.
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 If
And
expense
cash
increase,
decreases.
a cash decreases, asset decrease. So if expense increase, it should be debit or credit?
So debit.
Debit. That's why we will write down into the debit column. And cash, asset, you paid cash, so asset reduce. If asset reduce, it should be credit. 148. Explanation is very easy. Paid the utility bill or utility expense. 27. Receipt payment from customers for October 12 service performed. Received payment from customers from October 12 service performed. Let's see what happened in October 12. On October 12, you have provided services, but at the time you did not receive any cash. That's why you have received accounts receivable. Now you are receiving cash from that customer. So what are the accounts will be affected?
Accounts receivable and cash.
Cash and accounts receivable. Both are asset. How they are changing? Cash.
Cash increase, accounts receivable
If cash,
decrease,
exactly. If cash increase, it should be debit.
decrease and credit.
Decrease, credit. Excellent. Thank you so much, sir. So our journal will be cash debit, accounts receivable, credit on 27. And the amount was, I forgot the amount, 3200. 3200. Explanation.
So received
Hmm?
the
The like that paid
due balance.
due balance. Exactly. And the last one, paid employees salaries and wages 5100. Now we are paying whoever paid services for us, maybe that consultant that we have hired or along with some other employees. Now we are going to pay. So what are the accounts will be affected here?
Salaries and
Salaries,
wages,
salaries
cash.
and wages, and
This will be part of
cash.
cash flow.
Yeah, salaries expense increase should be debit. Cash is an asset.
Decrease and credit.
Decrease should be credit. So our journal is this one. Salaries and wages. We can write down expense as well if you want. Otherwise, it's considered as an expense. It is debited by 5100. Cash is 5100. So this is how basically we have to do the journal, and the working parts we have done. Definitely you have to do it maybe like that as in working or in your mind, but you have to be familiar with that activities in mind, because whenever we'll proceed for the next steps of accounting activities, definitely you have to follow transactions and you instantly have to do the journals. So you have to be familiar, or you need to be uh, familiar with that activities. And after recording it to the journals, at the end what we have to do, we have to make the total of debit column and credit column. Now we will make the total of the debit and credit column. Here it is. Can anyone explain why do you need to make the total?
So we need to show both are equal.
So
Exactly.
we can check whether they equal.
Exactly. Because if you can remember, uh, at the beginning or probably two sessions back, we have mentioned that each and every transactions will equally affect to the debit and credit column, or equally affect to the both side of accounting equation. That means it indicates that the same amount will be recorded into the debit and credit. And if you notice that whenever we have recorded into the journal, the same amount was being recorded to the debit side and the credit side. That's why it is being expected that the total column of the debit and total column of the credits will be same. And whether it is same or not, to identify this one, we have to make the total or sum of the total of debit and sum of the debit column and credit column to find out both sides are same. That's the reason. And this is how we have to do the journals. Are you okay with that, sir? You need,
Yes, sir.
yeah, you may need some more practice. That's why in the next sessions what we are going to do, before moving to the next steps of the accounting activities, you have to come up with a solution of a problem. That is the problem number, I haven't mentioned it here. problem number P22A, problem number P22A of your book, from the page number of 107, PDF page number 107. Same as it's a homework again. Record the above transactions through panel. So this is the things you have to do. You have to do the journals of the above transaction. I will suggest you to do it by yourself without maybe you can do the workings for your convenience, but try to be familiar without writing this one, by doing it in mind whether you can do the journals or not. We definitely are going to solve this problem in the next session as well. If you have any problem, any queries, any issues arises, we definitely are going to discuss with that and try to clear on that views. But try to be familiar how to do the journals more efficiently by applying the debit credit rule and by definitely analyzing the transactions. So this is the main objectives. This is the main
So
objectives.
what is the exercise number?
This is the problem number P22A. P22A. If you looked at the sheet or Google Classroom sheet that we are sharing with you all as well, I already pasted the whole problem here as well. So before moving to the next one, we all have to be familiar with the generalization process, and it should be in our control. Then I want to say that whatever we have discussed so far till today, that is the very basic thing. If you can understand all the issues that we have discussed, whatever we are going to discuss later on, each and everything will be very easy to you. That's why I always suggest to you all that try to be familiar with the issues, concepts we have discussed so far. If it is in your control, you will not face any problem in accounting, maybe in the finance courses as well. So I always suggest all my students, especially for this course, to clear their basic concepts in accounting, and these basic concepts includes, especially depends on these 5 sessions. So up to that, I suggest you to go through again with whatever we have discussed so far. If you have any query, any problem, feel free to share with me. We can discuss it. If you need additional time, share with me. We can fix up an additional time. We can consult with your problems or discuss with your problems or issues that you have. Have you got it?
Yes, sir.
Cool. So feel free. If you need additional time, additional consultation time, I'll give it to you. But I want you all to be familiar with the issues that we are going to cover, we are discussing so far. That's the issues I'm supposed to discuss for this session. Do you have any more query, any problem, any issues that we can cover? I don't want to discuss any new topic this session. I just want you all to be familiar with the generalization process. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, that's cool. Have you got the email for the assignment too?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please submit it by the due time. Don't be late. Okay, this is very easy
So I
regarding the
have a
transaction.
question regarding the assignment.
Yeah,
So
please.
will we have to make a separate explanation column?
It's better to do it. You can see that we have to use the explanation part for our next steps or different steps in accounting activities. That's why I want you to be familiarized with the explanation, so that you will not face any confusion, any problem in the next steps. So it will be better if you add the explanation part, but it is not mandatory, but it will be better or helpful for you. Okay, any other query?
So, any suggestion for the assignment?
If
Daily
you
assignment?
uh, uh, this assignment is basically related to the tabular analysis. I'm sure that if you can understand the transaction analysis part, it will not be a problem for you. And If you face any sorts of problem, just feel free to contact with me through email or in the discussion session, wherever you like. We'll share it, we'll discuss it with you.
Okay, sir.
Sir,
Yes, sir.
so I wanted to ask when will be our midterm exam held?
During the midterm week.
So the date is not fixed yet.
Not date is not been fixed yet. There is a chance that university will centrally announce a midterm schedule as like the final. There is a chance of that. That's why we are waiting for that one, that announcement.
Okay.
All right, then. If you have no more query, we can conclude this session here, and we'll see you again in the next session. And by this time, I'm suggesting you to be familiar, to be comfortable with the discussions we have made so far. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you all. See you in the next session.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Goodbye, sir. Take care.
Goodbye, sir. Take care. Have a good day to you all.
Sir, I have a question, sir.
Yes, sir. Please.
Sir, if I buy anything or if I mean, sir, in the assignment question, there write credit on credit
On credit means on account.
on account.
Yeah.
That means that is accounts payable.
Accounts payable. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Good luck.